Think I've got it.
Thank you, Matthew, for recording. So you can access these classes on
You're up.
YouTube any old time. All right, I'm up as soon as I mute everybody. So I'm doing that now.
So this is a woman I
Mm,
found on Instagram. She's a neuroscientist from Britain. Her handle is M on the brain, and,
EMM on the brain.
and she is wicked smart. Uh, and is doing, she's got a little bit of a metaphysical bend to her that I don't like, but her science is good. So today, the reason I wanted to play it, some of this is going to be information we've been over before about how much your brain screens out. So you hear me talk about the 20 billion bits that come in through your unconscious mind and the 128 that you process consciously in your brain. Well, those numbers have shifted radically. She's going to give you some of the new numbers in this talk. What I want you to listen for is the impact of that screening. What happens when you reduce
Mhm.
the 20
Actual.
million bits of information coming in down to 128 that you're experiencing consciously. So I'm going to let her say it because she says it well. Okay,
Okay.
Sugar?
All right. It's okay. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Brad. Okay, I'm going to have to adjust the volume real quick, so bear with me. Here we go.
Shows that your brain filters out over 99% of your reality, which means that everything you want could be right in front of you and you wouldn't even notice it. Every second, your brain receives around 11 million bits of information, but the conscious mind is only thought to process around 40 to 60 bits per second. The rest is filtered out. And the filter, your brain's reticular activating system, only allows in what aligns with your focus, beliefs, and subconscious programming. That's why when you decide you want a car and all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere, it's because your brain marked it as important and then it filters reality to show you more of it. This is why they say what you focus on expands. Now imagine if you trained your brain to see abundance, success, and opportunity the same way. You'd start seeing that everywhere too. And that is exactly how I changed my life. Your mind determines the reality that
Okay.
That's it.
So listen
Okay,
to what
that was
she's
a
saying.
lot.
She's saying that what you hear us focus on the conditioned mind. Why is it so important to focus on the conditioned mind? Because that's what's operating below the level of your awareness to filter out information that's out there. So when we say there's a negativity bias to your brain, it means that your brain is focused and only letting in negative information. And whatever you focus on,
Mo-
whatever you
Mostly.
mostly, okay? But here, of all your experience during your day, 80% of the information you let in is negative or threatening.
Right.
So the balance of your day on the get-go, given your brain, has already shifted negative, which is why neuroscience, particularly Rick Hanson in the Buddha's brain, says left unattended, this default position that we're talking about will cause you to be negative about yourself, negative about other people, and negative about the world that you live in. So I chose a reading today from Bertolt Brecht. Brecht was a German playwright, prominent in the theater. He was kicked out of Germany by the Nazis and later left the United States because he's being harassed by the House Un-American Affairs Committee. And he talks about how this negativity has overwhelmed his life and how he feels that he's living in dark times. Uh, he entitles this poem To Those Born Later. And some of us are going to resonate with what's going on in our country right now. He said, Truly I live in dark times. The guileless word is folly. A smooth forehead suggests insensitivity. The man who laughs has simply not yet heard the terrible news. What kind of times are they when a talk about trees is almost a crime because it implies silence about so many horrors? That man there calmly crossing the street is already perhaps beyond the reach of his friends who are in need. Is it true I still earn my keep? But believe me, that is only an accident. Nothing I do gives me the right to eat my fill. By chance I've been spared, and if my luck breaks, I'm lost. They say to me, eat and drink, be glad you have it. But how can I eat and drink if I snatch what I eat from the starving, and my glass of water belongs to one dying of thirst? And yet I eat and drink. I would also like to be wise. In the old books it says what wisdom is, to shun the strife of the world and to live out your brief time without fear. Also, to get along without violence, to return good for evil. Not to fulfill your desires, but to forget them is accounted wise. All this I cannot do. Truly, I live in dark times. So there you have in the poem where many of us are, that we hear the wisdom tradition, we hear him saying you can live without fear, you can reduce your desires and your wants, and yet we can't. And why can't we? Because we don't know how to discipline our brains. That was my big problem with the church. They're always, love your enemy. Tell me once any preacher who ever told you how to love your enemies. Okay, they say, no, you're a child of God. Well, how do I do that? What does that mean? What does that look like? So what we're looking here is that neuroscience and mindfulness meditation are the bridge between that goal of a potential better life, a life of abundance, which Jesus called the kingdom and said it's always there. Okay, remember, this is a part of your nervous system just as much as this part that's creating all the problems is part of your nervous system. So is the part that sees the kingdom, that sees the beauty, that sees the opportunity. That is equally real, or equally a part of your brain. So we've spent most of our lives training this default position, which looks for problems and then goes out and tries to fix them all day long. Now we're being asked to wake up. Okay, we try to wake up. Now comes more bad news and good news, people, because today we're talking about the people who get stuck in the monkey mind and who have a bigger problem getting out of the monkey mind. So we say, okay, here's the monkey mind, here's what it does. When you're meditating, just set it aside. Focus on your breath, focus on your senses, focus on what is happening now.
Easier said than done.
My guess is that 90% of the people on the screen will not be able to do that. And today, Kelly McGonigal is tell us who that group of people is.
Oh,
and then we'll have a show of hands at the end. Anybody who would like.
Then we're going to meditate.
Yeah, of course we're going to.
You want to discuss first, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to play this first.
Okay. All right. So this is, once again, this is our fourth listening to Kelly McGonigal, the Neuroscience of Change is what the series is called. And this little chapter is being stuck in the default state.
It's not just the wisdom traditions that teach us that living in this default state is suffering. Neuroscientists have also looked at who it is that spends the most time stuck in the default state. And scientists have found that people who are depressed have a much harder time pulling out of the default state than people who aren't depressed. Most of us can get a kind of welcome reprieve from this constant inner dialogue when we immerse ourselves in some activity, whether it's reading a good book or being deep in a conversation with someone else, or perhaps it's exercise or creative activity. And there are these moments we have where we aren't stuck in this default state, where we're fully absorbed in what we're doing. But people who are depressed actually have a very hard time pulling out of the default state, even when they try to engage in something that should be absorbing, even in activities that should provide them with some relief from this default state. And the more difficulty people have coming out of this default state, the worse the symptoms are, the worse the depression is. Neuroscientists have also observed similar trouble getting out of the default state in people who suffer from anxiety. For example, people who experience social anxiety, which means that they have a lot of fears and worries about interacting with others and especially what others think about them. They may fear that they will be judged by others or embarrass themselves by what they say or what they do. People who have social anxiety, they also have a hard time getting out of the default network, but especially regions of the brain that are involved in those two elements of social cognition and self-referential processing. So it's not so much that they're stuck thinking about the past and the future, but they are very rigidly stuck in thinking about what other people think about them and what it means about themselves if they say or do something silly. And this creates a large part of the suffering of social anxiety disorders. People who have post-traumatic stress disorder also show a type of stuckness in the default state. And their particular default state seems to be more tightly coupled with intrusive memories, which exactly describes the suffering of post-traumatic stress disorder, that there are intrusive thoughts and intrusive emotions and intrusive memories related to a past trauma, and they seem to come up all the time, even when you're trying to focus on something else. At any moment, that stress and that suffering can reemerge in your mind. And neuroscientists have found that, in part, this is because the brains of people with PTSD have a harder time shifting out of this default state network. But all of us, even those of us who don't suffer from clinical depression and anxiety or trauma, all of us know what it's like to feel stuck in this default state. And this is particularly problematic when we're trying to make a change in our lives.
Okay, the fourth group, who she doesn't mention, are people with ADHD. And what we're really looking at is actually the brain structures that are behind these clinical labelings. So you can call it depression, but it's really the functioning of the brain. And it's parts of this default network that feed into that. So, for example, let's take one thing like being dorsal, because dorsal is the part of the vagus nerve that tells you, starts sending words in your brain saying it's hopeless, I'm worthless, there's no use in trying, I don't want to engage with people, I just want to isolate, nothing's worth doing. When that stuff begins to take over, it's really fed a lot by the default network, which reinforces that with all kinds of memories, all kinds of strategies, all kinds of storylines, which convince you of that reality. Now listen to what neuroscience is saying. If you entertain those thoughts that your brain is telling you, you are ignoring 99% of what's happening to create that reality. So when we say you are creating your reality, we don't mean it in the sense that you can say, oh, I'm wealthy and immediately you're going to become prosperous. No, that's that metaphysical thought that doesn't work. What happens is that because you're not indulging in the negativity generated by the monkey mind, it frees you to see and experience things that will change your perception of yourself and your world and literally begin to rewire your brain. So what neuroplasticity means is you are 100% in control of how you shape your brain. Every thought, this is the iron law of karma, every thought that you think is being wired into your brain. It starts out as a signal, but the more that signal travels that pathway, the more it becomes a literal hardwired
It's a
area of your
rut.
brain. And
Yeah.
it's a rut that your brain is going to follow. That's what a habit is, right? So what the good news is, there's a way out of this. There's a way to stand outside of the monkey mind, see what the monkey mind is up to, and not take it seriously, to go, oh, that's my anxiety program. That's the little anxiety train going around. Oh, that's my depression train going around. Oh, that's my ADD that just went and chased a rabbit. Okay. Now, the good news is, those of us, how many of us, just for hands, have one or many of the four things that I just listed: ADD, depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff? We're the ones who benefit the most, because the part of the brain that's strengthened the most in meditation is the prefrontal cortex right here, the decision making. So every time I sit down, I get more and more in control of the master switch to switch off the monkey mind. Okay. The more that I can switch off the monkey mind, the more I can begin to see those depressive loops going and come back into present reality, get out of the past, into the present moment, where the depression can't exist. Okay. I can't exist. The social cognition and self-referential thinking of anxiety disorder don't function when I'm standing outside of them. So it almost sounds too good to be true. But what I say to my clients is, you are rewiring the path back to heaven. Okay. We start out in heaven as kids. We're in that ventral part of our brain where life is beautiful, it's expansive. That's the beginner mind. The beginner mind sees that. It sees more than the traumatized mind does. All right. So when we begin to land back in ventral, all of a sudden a world of possibilities opens up. And it's not depression in the way we thought it was, because if it was depression, I couldn't shift that radically from it being hopeless to me feeling excited about my life and be able to maintain that. That's not depression. It's not an anxiety disorder if I can sit down, meditate, step outside of it, and go to a place where that anxiety doesn't exist. So there's tremendous hope in this. And we're going to hear next week that with 8 weeks of meditating twice a day for 30 minutes, people see changes in the brain thickness in the areas that are being exercised by meditation. So it doesn't take 20
Twice
years.
a day for 30 minutes is a lot.
Twice a day. Okay,
Am I right?
here's what we say in AA. Oh, I don't have time to go to a meeting. How much time did you spend drinking? Well, all that time you spent drinking, you have free to go to a meeting now. Notice how you always found time to get to the liquor store.
Well, the thing about it is those 2 30-minute sessions a day don't have to be seated on a cushion.
No, they don't.
So you could be on a
Driving.
conscious hike, which could be a meditation if you're in the present
That's
moment.
why I multitask, okay? So you go out, you take a walk, you're
Right.
getting your walk in. You go out in the morning, you're
Listen
getting
to
the
the
morning
birds,
sunlight. You
work
listen
in
to
the
birds.
garden.
You work in the garden, you go barefoot so that you're getting your grounding. It doesn't have to, that's what I'm saying. This is a layering on. It doesn't mean you've got to isolate. Formal meditation on the cushion is one thing. Anytime you're mindful, it's mindful meditation, people, not sit your ass on a cushion meditation. Anytime you pop your head out of your ass and wake up and realize, I have not been, where the fuck have I been for the past 20 minutes? Okay, you all know that feeling?
Yeah, it's easy to
Okay.
do in the car. It's
You've
like,
been
oh
in
my
the
gosh,
monkey
how did I
mind.
get here?
Okay, so that's a time to wake up. Okay, now I'm going to reinforce being awake. What a delicious treat to have spontaneously awakened. All right, now let's see. Think of it as holding. How long can I hold this space? How much can I soften and expand this space? And So today in your meditation, I want you to begin to again remember, how do we get here? One, stop the anxiety by slowing the out breath, building up the nitric oxide, getting a little bit more out of the fight or flight using the breath as your tool. To deactivate the monkey mind, come to the sensations in your body, either your literal senses or your internal senses of the energy moving in your body, of the discomfort in your body, all those kind of things. And let that be your anchor for the monkey mind. So when you begin to shift and you realize you've drifted out, again, come back to these things that are going to expand those moments of presence.
And are you going to cue us like that?
Yes, I will cue you on that. And that's going to rewire every time you take that trip back to the present moment, back to the present moment. You're hardwiring that. And the people that you look at that we call gurus, they're not spiritually elevated. They're simply awake more of the time. As the Dalai Lama says, perhaps I have a little more happiness. He says, I get angry, I get scared, I get depressed. I have all those feelings, but I spend less time there because I don't entertain it. I don't try to fix it. I just let it go. So let's practice being little mindful neuroscientists, and sit and watch the clusterfuck that is our conditioned brain. It's great fun. When you watch comedians, look at comedians, because what they do is they wear the stupid stuff we do all day long as a mask and show us how absurd we are, like Lucille and Ethel trying to pack the chocolates and trying to stay ahead of the curve. That's us. W.C. Fields is us. They're all us. Enjoy your comedy show. Turn to your breath. And very gently, never any force in meditation, just an allowing, a soft invitation for the mind to settle in the present moment, taking refuge from the monkey mind, letting go of the past as it arises, letting go of the future, feeling the tug of their invitation to leave this present moment. Like when I'm driving in my car and my hand automatically reaches to turn on the radio and I don't, and I settle into the present and the silence. Breathing with ease, no effort, no control. Turning the breath over to the wisdom of the body. Which breathes for you all night long. Without your effort, your control. Feeling the restless, impulsive activity wanting to distract you like an impatient child. And don't fight it, but don't entertain it. If you found that you've left, just gently bring yourself back without recriminations, without analysis, just a noticing. I was here, then I was gone. Now I'm here. Staying with the sensations of the breath that are generated, not just breathing, but feeling the impact of the energy that you're inhaling, the prana. And how that sacred energy impacts your body, the delicious coolness and biting quality of the in-breath, the warmth and the soothing qualities of the out-breath, so sensual, so delicious. Perhaps feeling the thrill, the breath, as it moves through the subtle energy channels of the fascia, enlivening every cell of your body with the in-breath. And the delicious release of the exhale. You don't have to wait to exhale. And the beauty of the breath is that these sensations are continuous. Ever present, an anchor for you to find refuge in this moment, refuge in the breath, refuge in the body. Establishing this as a background awareness that you carry with you. Off the cushion when you're driving, when you're at the computer, when you're in a conversation, when you're walking, all opportunities to check in and practice this presence, this gentle, open, spacious, curious place that's always within you. And if you're struggling to stay in contact with this place, watch how easily your awareness is seduced by the monkey mind. Just notice where you are and gently bring yourself back to the space. Learning that the skill of returning to the present, fully present in the present, is the steering wheel, the rudder for beginning to take control of your life. You can't change what you can't see. And to see, you need to overcome the trance of your conditioned mind. If you've drifted off, feel how your body feels. Feel how your awareness feels in this constricted place. And use that as a way of expanding, opening back into the present. Drawing in space with the in-breath into awareness, space into the heart, softening into your natural state of compassion, body soft, receptive. And sit and watch until you disappear. And repeat. bringing yourself back. Noticing again how it feels to leave, how it feels to return without judgment or analysis, just direct sensing. Noticing anything persistent like a pain that may be drawing you out, and if you need to adjust, don't hesitate to adjust. There's no brownie points for suffering through your meditation. It's supposed to be sitting with ease, sukhasana. Ease of breath, ease in the body, ease in the mind. Noticing perhaps increased instability in the body and the mind. Remember, just like in the gym, when you're moving towards fatiguing, this is your payoff. Here's where the greatest reward is. Here's where you build courage, self-acceptance, by not struggling against what's emerging now. Noticing how softening to it decreases your suffering, and fighting it makes it worse, and observe it directly. What are you giggling about?
My monkey
Your
mind.
monkey mind. It just jumped on you right away, huh?
I was thinking of awareness of physical sensations and thankful to Tiffany for making us aware of sweetest batch strawberries. Almost never have them in our store here, but this week they had a box, a flat of them. So boy, that is an explosion of flavor in your mouth. It is amazing.
It's a
Yes,
treat.
sir.
It's a treat. They
Thank
they
you.
have the blueberries too sometimes, so look for those.
All righty.
I
So,
had a really incredible experience. Um, my monkey mind was repeating, you're afraid you're going to miss out, Pam. Not only the good things, but the bad things. What if you don't keep track of the bad things and the good things? And then I would come back to, well, you know what? It's all the same, whether it's good or bad. You just need to sit back and observe. Don't worry about it. You're going to miss out. That's the facts.
that's a fact,
Yeah.
Jack. Yep.
I love it.
So, again, kind of tweaking a little bit on that. Watch that tendency to want to talk to it. Okay? Because that's where we start getting into therapy and getting out of mindfulness, is this feeling that I have to put a corrective intervention in between what just emerged to get to a place of safety. And really, you don't need that step. Okay? It does work some, but just directly landing back here
In the breath.
in the breath without the commentary. So even that commentary about I'm afraid of missing out and I need to do this and yeah, you're going to do this. That's still monkey mind. That's how subtle this thing is. Uh, so even if it's working using spiritual languages, it's still monkey mind. It's still trying to fix yourself. Uh, so you ended up in the right place. There's nothing to fix here. There's nothing to fix. And the monkey mind wants to reassert the authority that if now I'm going to change and I'm going to allow you to see things. Well, no, it's not. Okay. That's what's limiting your experience to begin with. So I say these things not for you to begin to apply them as techniques or tools. This is not about techniques or tools. It's about forgiving yourself for what you're doing. It really boils down to self-compassion. I forget who it is, William Butler Yeats, who says, my spirit wants to soar on the wings of an eagle, but all the time tied to this dying animal. My spirit wants to soar and I'm tied to this animal. So here's my spirit wanting to relax into expansiveness and freedom and liberation. And that yearning is in every one of us, okay? But I'm tied to this dying animal that keeps limiting and structuring and pulling me down, saying, you got to be in control, you got to be scared, you got to do all the oughts, the shoulds, blah, 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 blah. And the beauty of being older is that the oughts and should be getting less. Could be getting less, a lot less. Could be. Don't have work. Parents may have passed away. You don't have kids at home, hopefully. Some of us still do. But then we have the freedom again to go back and say, it's okay. Calm down. Is this making any sense to people? But I know it's a radical awareness and thought. And as I say to people, if you think you're getting it, you're not. Okay. You're just turning it into plan A, which is to find a better way to be in control. If you're really feeling totally disoriented,
It's a practice.
yeah,
It's a practice. Day in, day out, every moment. It's a practice.
yeah. And every moment's an opportunity to practice.
But it's also a choice, isn't it? In that day to day, trying to be in the moment, living in not the past, but going out like I went out this morning as you helped me understand and got my D by sitting in the sun and having my cup of coffee very simply, and then also speaking up to my husband that I can't run around and feed the cats and do everything and then walk into this event, rushing in, trying to get a Zoom set up. And by then, whenever I get here, I'm really tired, so I'm not able to listen. I'm not listening. And that's one of the things that awareness is about, listening. And I want to also say at this time, you were pretty rough with me in the last session we had yesterday, and I loved it. I needed that to get back on
Life's
track.
it rough,
And
folks.
thank you for that. I mean, it all just so hit that there is if you're living in the day and you're taking and the choices you make, there's a whole world that can open up to you. And I thank you, and I hope you do well in your competition today.
Well, I'm
Thank
really not
you.
even thinking, thank you, but I'm not thinking of it as a competition.
Okay, well, see right there, I gotta label it. I gotta make it.
No, it's called a competition. That was nothing about you. It's just saying,
Okay,
in my mind, this is just having a bunch of people who are experts evaluate my form and give me feedback on what I can.
gotcha, gotcha.
All
It's
that's going on.
gotcha. Again,
It's a
I'm
great
very
company.
blessed to live in this area and have the opportunity to work with you. And I'm not mad at you anymore for now. Beat me up a little bit. Okay. All right.
You're not mad at me, okay? Yes, you
I'm
might.
mad at myself. I know.
No,
I
no,
got it.
no, no. You're not mad at yourself, okay? Your conditioning is mad at me. What ego loves, spirit hates. What spirit loves, ego hates. So ego is going to kick your ass. The more you open up to embrace these
And
teachings,
his.
the more you're going to fight against them, the more resistance is going to emerge. And you have to see that as natural. And nobody's to blame. This is your mind doing what it is. Does. So, yeah, I'm used to that.
That's the mind. Yeah.
A brain.
So I expect that. That, interestingly enough, is a validation to me as a teacher that you're actually doing it. Okay, because I see that I didn't tell you you were going to do that, and you did it. So I go, oh, okay, so that one landed. Does that make sense to people? Can you see that? That she took it in, she applied it, and then the resistance starts. Tommy, did you have something?
Wanted to say that being tied to this dying animal doesn't stop me from appreciating and awareness of all the beautiful things around me, of the beauty in nature, of all the beautiful people around me. I mean, uh, there is so much to be grateful for
Absolutely.
that this dying animal doesn't prevent me from
That's exact.
gratitude.
So again, to massage a little bit with what you said, Galen, we don't have a choice until we establish this point. Okay. So like Archimedes saying, if you give me a lever and a place to stand, a fulcrum, I can move the world. Until you establish this thing, you don't have a choice. You think you have a choice. It's like as an alcoholic, it took me 12 years to understand. I thought I had a choice about whether I took a drink or not. And every moment I would say, I'm not going to drink today. And every night I was getting drunk. There was no choice. And that's part of what we begin to see is that how little choice we have over what our mind is doing. And then to wake up and realize I do have a tool here that I can apply.
Mhm.
That takes a while to establish that. Yeah. And so again, commend yourself for what you're doing. Understand how difficult what you're doing is. That's why Jesus said, many are called, but few are chosen. The way is narrow, is because there's so many seductions. So, and to getting off sidetracked on the side. So showing up, having the courage to be a beginner over and over again. We were listening to Sharon Salzberg, and we're probably going to do her new series. Uh, and she goes to this teacher for this intensive week of meditation, and you got to come to report to him in these talks all day long. And so he'd sit and listen to her detailed explanations or expressions, and he'd go, "It's like that sometimes in the beginning." And she's going, "I've been meditating for 14 years, and all he says is it's like that in the beginning."
Every time I come back every day with a different story of her meditation, and he would basically say the same thing until she finally realized, oh, it's all about the
Beginning
beginners.
mind. Yeah, going back to the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if anybody here is a bird watcher.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure you probably know about the app called Merlin or eBird, right? Well, I've always been a little frustrated by trying to find the bird and identify it because as soon as I try to take a picture of it, it flies away. Well, I realized that someone told me that Merlin has a sound button. So you can go out, if there are a lot of birds around, you hit sound and it captures the song of the bird and it tells you the name of the bird and gives you a picture of it.
Wow.
Well, when I go out on my walk every day, we've got about 70 acres here where I live of beautifully landscaped grounds, and we have tons of birds. So I can go out on a walk or I can just sit outside and put my phone with Merlin loaded. And it captured the other day about 11 different birds singing in the area. And so now when I go out on a walk, I don't listen to silly podcasts anymore about the horrible state of our country. I listen for the bird sounds and I identify the sounds of the birds. We must have an entire clan of house finches here because I'm constantly hearing them, but their song is longer than the others and it's so cheerful. It's varied, it's very varied. So I would say that I recommend to anyone here who is interested in birds to the Merlin app is free and it helps you to be in the present. When you're in a funk, as Bart was saying, you can meditate anywhere, anytime doing anything. It's a matter of being present to what you're doing. So you could be walking around outside and being in the present, listening for those bird sounds and identifying the birds, not saying, oh, that one's pretty, that one's not, but just saying, oh, it's so pretty, these bird songs.
That's great. So we need
It's
to close
great.
it out on the
Thank you,
road.
Channy. You're
Thank
so
you for
right.
that. And again, a little bit of neuroscience on that. They have identified that 6 minutes of listening to bird song shifts you to ventral, out of fight or flight, out of dorsal. And I started thinking, why does that happen? And I said, it's because when the birds are singing, there's no predator in the forest. And again, this is the way our brains are unconsciously, without our permission, running scripts that have been millions of years in the making, attuning us, like she was saying, like seeing that car everywhere, that bird song, there's a part that's listening, even when you don't know you're listening, to see if the birds stop singing. when they are singing, that relaxes and says, okay, we're safe, no predators. And I love that stuff. So, Omi's out. Dear,
All
if you
right.
got a burning desire, save it for next week. We'll start with it.
So Latrice, we end with 3 rounds of
So,
Om, and we're honoring your dad with a round of wow for Timothy at the end of the session. Deep breath in.
wow!
Wow.
Thank you, everybody.
Love y'all.
Have a super
Love
good
you more.
one of these weeks, Latrice. We'll stay late and maybe have a little visit. I wish we could today, but it's not
Not gonna happen.
not possible. But
Or
thank
it's in
you for
demand.
getting here.
Yeah. Happy trail to you.
Yay.
Bye, y'all. I love